From the crack of dawn to the campfire at night. Whether you're in the woods, on the water, or just dreaming about your next adventure, you're in the right place. This is Tailgate Outdoors.
Mr. Jake Bolks, Wisconsin Conservation Warden for Wisconsin, But Jake Bolks joining us here this morning. Jake, how you doing, bud?
Morning. Doing great. How about yourself?
Not bad. How was the 4th of July holiday for you guys? I'm sure you guys were probably pretty busy last week, but how was everything for you?
Yeah. Well, everyone's, at least with my guys, safe and happy and good to go. But it went well. There's a lot of people out recreating, a lot of people having a really good time and enjoying the resources or riding safe or doing whatever. So busy, but good.
All right, so let's kind of lead off with that too, Jake, because, 4th of July is probably a busy time was a busy time for a lot of boaters and ATV people and maybe having some beverages. How has that been going like this year?
Yeah, so, I might have hit on it before the 4th, but when it comes to operating ATVs, UTVs, boats, and even snowmobiles in the winter, it's the same rules as operating a vehicle where you can't be over a .08 for operating while intoxicated. There are some, you can have open intox, which is different than a motor vehicle, but it's not highly encouraged, but you can. But unfortunately, we're seeing, in the last few years, we're definitely seeing a spike, but especially in the last couple of weeks, we're seeing a lot of people getting arrested for a boating or a UTV OWI. I hate to make the comment, but it seems like anyone we pull over after dark is drunk, and that's definitely not safe for other recreators, for passengers, or even for themselves. And with that, it seems like speed and alcohol are a huge contributing factor to a lot of UTV rollover deaths and just deaths in general, and then boating accidents and fatalities or drownings we're having. So not to start it off on a negative tone, but it's really important. My biggest thing, not only for me personally and for my family, but for everyone, is that you go out, have fun, and come home safe. Because, me and another warden made a death notification to a mom down in Illinois a couple weeks ago, and that's just, it's hard for us, but it's our job. I can't imagine being the parent or the mom on the other end of that. So I'd really encourage everyone to slow down or get a sober driver or just limit the amount of alcohol they're taking when they're out recreational riding and boat operating.
Jake, when you pull people over and stop people and find out that's the problem they're causing, are the citations you write and the penalties equivalent, the same, or different from if you were on the road and a police officer pulled someone over for OWI and some of those things? Are the penalties the same?
The penalties are currently not the same. So you can get a first offense boat, ATV, OWI, and it's kind of like in its own category. So it doesn't affect your driver's license, or it doesn't, they kind of don't stack up on each other, if that makes sense. So they're all kind of their separate categories. I know there's been legislative bills every year that's trying to get that all kind of combined into one, OWI charge, which states like Minnesota and other surrounding states have. But right now it's all kind of separate. But once you get past that first one, then it's very similar to the motor vehicle, where once you get more than 1, 2, 3, 4, the penalties drastically increase, and then you can start losing not only your safety, your quote unquote safety certificates or license to drive the recreational vehicles, but then you can start losing other privileges, which could be your motor vehicle or other things once you get past that first one.
Jake, speaking of boating here quickly, somebody did text in, can you have a boat with a trolling motor on Half Moon Lake?
Yeah, Half Moon Lake is basically only a trolling motor lake, so you can't use any sort of combustion engine on Half Moon. They have a city ordinance. It's not a state ordinance, so it's enforced by Eau Claire Police Department.
Okay.
But they have a city ordinance that restricts using like a motor like a gas-powered motor. So you can still like drop in an 18-foot bass boat with a 175 horsepower motor. You can put that on the water there. That's fine. But you can't run the big motor. You would just have to use your trolling motor.
Gotcha.
So pretty common to see that with people's motors tilted up and then just running around the lake with their trolling motors. If you do see it and you want to report a violation for it, call the Eau Claire Police Department because, like I mentioned, it's a city ordinance. So if you call me, then I just flick it to them because I technically don't have the jurisdiction to run on that because it's a city ordinance.
Gotcha. Hey, Jake, I know we've talked about, what happens if you see a deer on the side of the road, a dead deer hit on the side of the road,
Yeah.
Can you take the antlers and such, but what about an elk? We've never really talked about what if you see a dead elk on the road? Is it the same thing? or is it a little bit different because of, we're still introducing them to the herd? What should you do if you see that?
So the simplest and best answer is just keep driving.
Okay.
So when it comes to elk, it is different than deer. You can't get a salvage tag or permit. Each elk that dies gets necropsied or kind of they take a look at it. Obviously, they know the cause of death. It's a semi truck, but they look at how healthy it is. If it's a female or a cow, they can tell if it had a calf or something like that. So they take some of the scientific or biological data from it, and then we have different agreements with different public entities or tribal entities where we share kind of each one that we find that's deceased for putting good use to the meat. So if it's salvageable. So the reason, that's a good question. The reason that comes up and we hear about that a lot is usually our state patrol partners call us because they're the first ones to get a call that there's a dead elk on the road. And unfortunately, a lot of people slow down and gawk, or they stop and take pictures, or they try to find the antlers, or whatever they do with it. It creates a giant safety concern to, be on the side of the road with semis coming by at 70 miles an hour. So there's no legal way for anyone in the public to get possession of that or to take the antlers. And to be honest, you're probably going to get a ticket if you try to take anything off that animal. So the best thing to do is if you see an elk, take a picture of it if you want, or talk about it or whatnot, but just don't stop on the side of the road to gawk or take pictures or try to grab something from it.
Might be a stupid question, but a follow-up on that, because I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but I thought somebody had told me this. So, like out west, maybe a different state or such, you can't take sheds, right? Elk sheds. Can you in Wisconsin, if I walk around the woods and I find an elk shed, is that legal to take?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
It's got to fit the requirements of having no meat or skin on it. Okay. Which is pretty hard to find. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that I'm talking about if you find a dead head. If you find elk sheds, yeah. If you go walking through the public lands down there and you find just a full perfect shed where it came right off the animal, yeah, that one you can treat like a deer antler, and anyone's entitled to that. So I do know some people that know where the herds are, and they try to shed hunt those antlers every year.
Okay, I need to get.
But yeah, if it has any meat on it, if it's a dead head, stuff like that, don't mess around with that. We've definitely written tickets to people that have cut heads off dead elk, and then we kind of track them down. So. If it's a good one, take it. If not, give the local warden a call, and we'll be able to tell you what you can and can't do.
Gotcha. And I know since we're talking elks, probably some people are wondering if there's any updates on the illegal shooting of an elk. I know you can't reveal too much information and such at this point. But.
Yeah, just no updates to share right now, but still being looked into, still being investigated. It unfortunately takes a bit unless someone from the public comes straight out and gives us some pretty good information. It takes us a little bit to use our means of investigation to track down all the information and gather up all the data we can utilize.
Mm-hmm. Jake, this was a question I wanted to ask you because I saw it on Facebook last week, and it was, I'm sure you've probably seen some of them, but like, you got like the fishing groups on Facebook. People post a picture of a fish they caught or, something like that. And around here, I've noticed some people like posing with a paddlefish. They caught a paddlefish and they're posing with it, and then the comments start flooding through. Or if it's a sturgeon, the comments are flooding through saying, "You can't do that. DNR says you can't do that. You can't take a picture of that. You're supposed to cut the line." And then there's back and forth on that. Say I catch a paddlefish down by the dam or at the river. Should I just be cutting my line? Can I take it out and take a picture? What's the process with that?
Yeah, so we don't encourage you just to cut the line, because now you're leaving a hook in an animal. Mm-hmm. So the process is, first, you're not supposed to be targeting paddlefish or sturgeon, but if you're catfishing or walleye fishing or bass fishing and you accidentally catch one or you accidentally snag one, like the only way to catch a paddlefish is to snag it. Mm-hmm. So, because they just don't eat that way. So if you accidentally catch one, then what you should do is bring it in, if you can safely bring it in, get the hook out of its mouth, get the hook out of its side. Our guidance is that as long as you're moving real quick and you're not, keeping this animal in your possession by taking it up the bank or up the shoreline to take pictures or to hold on to it for an unreasonable amount of time. If you take that hook out, you turn around, your buddy's got a camera, you take a quick picture with that fish, and then you dump it right back, release it right back into the water, make sure it has a safe, healthy return. That's fine. We want the hooks out of the animal. You can have your picture. That's fine. Just do it like right away. If someone's holding a picture of a paddlefish up in a parking lot, and then they say, we released it back in the river, it's like, okay, at that point, you took it away from the river. You're in possession of it. That's a crime. Even if you release it, you were in possession of it at that point. So I always encourage people, like if you're fishing, if you're by yourself, you got to set up a selfie, do what you got to do as quickly and safely as possible. But just have your friends ready with a phone so they can take that picture when you get that hook out right by the water's edge and then release it. Mm-hmm. I've watched people while out on the boat. I've watched people catch them, bring them up, and then they struggle to lift it up and take pictures, and they're walking up on the rocks, and then the fish flops and it cracks its head on a big rock down by the dam, and it's not good for the fish. It's not a good look for fishermen. It's not an overall great situation. So just do it right down by the water where you drag it in, get your picture, and dump it back in. Mm-hmm. I did see one of those pictures of that paddlefish down below the dam, and what I really did like about that post was the individual posted that they caught it unintentionally, and that they said something to the effect of they quickly released it back into the water.
Right. Yeah.
If you do, I like that. I've told people this that I get complaints on in the past, that if you do unintentionally catch stuff, put that exactly in the post, or even like put a video of you releasing the fish right in the water, because it's no better evidence that you're treating that fish with respect and releasing it by putting that in the Facebook post.
Yeah, I think probably you and I probably saw the same photo, but reading some of the comments in there, it was like, oh boy, that was. Does it sometimes you have to stop yourself from commenting on there, or do you? I mean, you don't have to tell me. Never mind. So I don't.
No, I leave it all to the professional part of it. I just always remind people, like, no matter what you put on Facebook, even if it's you doing charity for like the most underprivileged animal in the world, and you're only doing positive, good things, someone's gonna spin it negative. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no doubt that every Facebook post in some way turns negative, or someone brings up this or that, or the fact that you're even fishing is evil, So I always remind people that if you're going to post something, make sure to be as legal and appropriate and respectful to the animal or to whatever that you're doing, and don't put anything that's going to, rile people up or that looks bad for the hunting, fishing, trapping community, stuff like that. So I didn't read through the comments on that post, but I did like how it was written, so kudos to that person.
Absolutely. He's Jake Bolks, Conservation Warden for the state of Wisconsin. Dude, appreciate the time as always, man. Good stuff.
Yeah.
We'll catch up with you next week, okay?
Yeah, no, sounds great. Thanks for having me.